I'm not dead. So we're finally done with Season 8. Oh god, let's get this over with. Episode 19. Okay, so we know that Starlight doesn't make the best decisions and is terrible at solving mundane problems, but this episode features her with Trixie, the character that she's had the best chemistry with, and All Bottled Up was great. There's no way they could possibly screw this up.
You what? I traded the old, worn-out wagon that was too small for us for this nice, new, spacious one that we can both enjoy. Who said you could do that? No, Pony, I just did it.
Why?
Yeah, this episode snapped my patience with Starlight in half. I was willing to defend her in Season 6, I was tolerant of her in Season 7, and now I just can't with her anymore. It's not just the fact that she traded away something that she knew was valuable to her best friend, it's how flippant she is about the whole thing, like it was such an easy decision to make. And I'm just thinking, she really hasn't learned shit in the past 3 years. While she does apologize for it and says that she realized what she did was wrong, the scenes that lead up to that show her struggling to move the caravan on her own because it was too heavy. So it makes me wonder, did she really feel sorry for what she did? Or did she just realize that carrying the caravan was too much for her? How many times do we have to see Starlight make stupid ass decisions and have the writers try to write around it instead of recognizing a bad idea when they see it? As I said in the previous roundup, they're bending over backwards to make a faulty idea work. Starlight can obliterate a chaos demon, but she can't carry a caravan by herself? The moment that got the biggest eye roll from me was when Starlight and Trixie come to the conclusion that, somehow, this whole ordeal made their friendship stronger. Really? Cause if I went on a road trip with a friend and I found out that they were willing to pawn off something that was very valuable to me for their own personal gain, they'd immediately lose my friendship. And a couple teeth. Isn't that right, Lily?
Look, I'm sorry that she ate Puff, but there was nothing I can do. That thing's made of teeth and nightmares.
Excuses.
Well, at least I have excuses.
Yeah, just go sit over there and try not to crack your head open on a stalactite.
Go sit over there. Try not to crack your head on a stalactite. Ah, fuck.
Where was I? Oh yeah, going through hardship with friends can strengthen the friendship, but that's only when said hardship isn't the direct result of the selfish, careless actions of one of the friends. It's an even more annoying version of the end in Friend. Instead of showing us why these two have good chemistry, it showed them at their absolute worst while simultaneously pretending like it had something profound to say. Episode 20. This episode feels like it was written by two writers that had very different ideas regarding where Rainbow Dash's mistrust of the washouts was supposed to come from. It goes back and forth between being about jealousy and being about protecting Scootaloo, and it makes Dash's motivation inconsistent. While you could argue that this was intentional, it still isn't executed very well because instead of seeing Dash having that inner conflict between her pride and concern, we only get one scene of that while more focus is put on the fan service of having Lightning Dust come back. If this conflict within Dash was indeed what the episode was going for, more focus needed to be put on Dash herself in order to convey the conflict effectively. If the episode wanted to focus more on Dash and Scootaloo interacting, then just forego the inner conflict and make Dash's sole motivation be about Scootaloo's safety so that the episode can be more consistent and focused. Part of me feels like I should dislike this episode more than I really do, but I guess since On the Road to Friendship was what it was, this episode isn't as bad by raw comparison. It's still bad though. Episode 21. You know, this episode started out okay. A nice fish out of water story. Yeah, it's been done, but nothing's original, and after so many consecutive stinkers, I don't mind a bit of familiarity. But it turns out that someone on the writing staff had the brilliant idea to have Rockhoof want to commit what is essentially suicide. You can try and argue that it isn't until you're blue in the face, but the dialogue surrounding it and Twilight's shocked face at Rockhoof's admission makes it painfully obvious. You don't have this kind of reaction to something mundane. But here's the thing though, even if I were to humor the idea that this wasn't a suicide parallel, it would still be a moot point because there was no reason for the writers to go to this extreme to get their message across. The purpose was to illustrate how hopeless and out of place Rockhoof felt in the present day. They could have had him isolate himself as a recluse like Moondancer did, and the message would still get across. There was no justifiable reason for them to go this far because what we end up getting is a resolution where a serious psychological issue is treated as something that can be hugged away and forgotten about. And if that wasn't bad enough, Twilight actually agreed to helping Rockhoof go through with it, even if it was temporary, and Spike is completely nonchalant about it when mentioning it to the students. Someone actually thought this was funny, and someone actually approved it. It is painfully apparent at this point that the writing staff needs a new editor and a new story supervisor, because nobody seems to be checking their shit here. Episode 22. Oh look, the show finally remembered that the Student 6 exists. On its own, What Lies Beneath was an average episode, but I feel that it would have been better if these kids were actually given the opportunity to grow on me. We're 22 episodes in at this point, and the only other episodes that were solely about them were the Hearts Warming Club and maybe School Days Part 2 if I were in a generous mood. When you set up a group of characters that you claim to be important, then don't actually give them the attention they need to actually be important, episodes like this that put their lives on the line and therefore require the viewer to actually care about the fate of these characters aren't gonna have as much impact as they could. I want the Student 6 to really shine because I see the potential, but the show is giving me table scraps and then presenting this episode as though it gave me a full course meal. Again, the episode itself is average, but it also serves as an example of why these kids needed more than just one episode focusing on them, and how doing just the bare minimum holds back potentially stellar episodes. Episode 23. Please don't let this be another shit episode. It's the Karen episode, Sketchy. Oh, thank God. I can always count on the Fluttershy Applejack combo to provide some good content, and goddamn was this some good content. While one can argue that the show making yet another lesson about open and honest communication is repetitive, communication itself takes on many different forms, and thus the lesson is applied in different ways every time it's done. Sounds of Silence is arguably the best application of this lesson because it shows how bad communication can impact the mindset of a whole community, where priority is put on avoiding conflict altogether instead of solving those conflicts pragmatically and letting frustration out in a healthy manner. That last part is important because there seems to be this prevailing mindset that anger itself is a bad thing instead of what it actually is, a neutral emotion. It's what we do with those emotions that matters, and denying those emotions doesn't avoid problems, it guarantees them, and that's the lesson that the Kieran had to learn. Sounds of Silence was the standout gem in the dumpster fire that was Season 8's latter half, and it shows the dangers of being in an environment that prefers a negative piece, which is the absence of tension, over a positive piece, which is the presence of justice. Was that a Martin Luther King quote? Look, I couldn't make a Black History Month video this year. I had to work something in. Episode 24. This episode was sweet. All this time, we've seen Will grow up without his father around, and throughout the series, Uncle Phil served as his surrogate father. While it's been debated amongst fans how much Phil truly loved his nephew, after this episode, there shouldn't be any doubt. The fact that he steps up and calls Will's father out on his flakiness was arguably the best moment of the series, and while it's heartbreaking to see Will go through those feelings of abandonment, he'll always have Uncle Phil at the end of the day as his real father. Wait, what the? Uncle Phil? Kevin, this is the wrong script! The Fresh Prince retrospective was scrapped, remember? Can this season be over, please? I wonder. When the artifacts were sucking up all the magic in Equestria, did it suck up everyone's intelligence too? Why do I ask? Because it's the only plausible reason I can think of for everyone to be this goddamn stupid. To go back for a moment, one of the minor issues I had with last season's finale was that the main characters had to hold the idiot ball for the majority of the episode in order for the premise to even work. Not only did the episode expect you to believe that Twilight would be dumb enough to release Star Swirl without even considering the possibility that he might have sealed himself away for a reason, it also expected you to believe that nobody would even question that decision and just let her do it. That secondary issue in last season's finale is the primary issue in this season's finale. The plot relies on your ability to believe that everyone in the school, including the main six, Starlight, and Spike, will be dumb enough to not notice a single thing awry or suspicious about Cozy Glow. It's obvious that the writers wanted to show just how much of a manipulator Cozy was, but instead of showcasing her intelligence and cunning, it showcases the obliviousness of everyone around her. I'm not saying that her being the bad guy has to be a surprise or anything. I'm saying that if you have heroes that are smart enough to know better, then your villain needs to be smart enough to outwit them rather than having the heroes get an intelligence debuff. Had the episode done that, Cozy would have been a very entertaining villain, because I can see inklings of a good execution there. Hey, at least she wasn't redeemed, right? What, so I'm just supposed to congratulate the show for doing the bare minimum now? Just because they didn't do the same villain shtick with Cozy Glow doesn't mean that that's all it takes to make her a good villain. You still have to put the work in. Not to mention the fact that while they didn't redeem her, they still went and redeemed Naysay, so the writers still couldn't help themselves. And that last phrase pretty much summarizes the whole season. The writers just couldn't help themselves. They latch onto ideas without thinking about whether they're actually executing them well, or if it's worth the expense of well-established characters, or if it imparts a horrible lesson for kids, or if it's just an atrocious taste. It's made the latter half of the season incredibly exhausting for me. And part of the reason why it took so long to make this video was because season 8 genuinely demotivated me. It made it difficult to work on other scripts because I had the roundups glaring over my head. I didn't finish the season satisfied with its ending. I finished the season satisfied that it finally ended. You still alive, Lily?
Yeah, I got a thick skull.
Alrighty then. Well, I guess the routine of even-numbered seasons being my favorite has officially been broken. Cause this was some trash.
I mean, I've been telling you this for over a year, but no, don't listen to Lily. She's never right, except literally all the frickin' time.
Yeah, that's why Chrysalis got redeemed this season. Oh wait, never mind.
Okay, so one time, everyone has a fluke, Mr. This episode broke me because I can't express anger.
Can't express anger? Did you not see my coverage on Shadowplay? Either way, at least we're both in agreement that this season is shite.
Well, it's nice to see you finally joined us all over here on Planet Sensible.
And people say I can't take a win gracefully.
Well, you know, I'm the black sheep of the community for a reason.
I think that's more applicable to me for more melanated reasons, but go off, I guess.
Oh my god, we get it! You didn't like season 8!
If you two hate it so much, why don't you do a video about it?
Ha! Yeah, right. Those two, getting something like that done, they never pull that off. Oh, we're laughing at their expense.